Greetings, everybody. It's State Representative Dr. Jasmine Clark, and I wanted to come to you all and do a very short but informative video about immunity and vaccines, just so we can have a little bit of an understanding of how these things work. So, first, let's start with the definition. What is immunity? Immunity is our ability to fight off particular diseases and infections. And so, how does this work? So, our bodies are amazing, and we have this amazing defense system that we call the immune system. And the immune system has layers to it. So, that first layer is our first line defenses, and these are really good at recognizing invaders and then attacking those invaders. But the way that it attacks is with pretty basic tools that it uses for all invaders. Just what would work for anything. And a lot of times when our first line defenders are fighting against these invaders, we feel it. So that's going to manifest itself as like symptoms. So a lot of times when you're feeling sick, what you are actually feeling is your body fighting against something that doesn't belong in your body. But we also have this other layer of defense in our bodies. The second layer of defense, or the second line of defense, is going to be much more specific. Instead of just using basic tools and weaponry to fight against invaders, they study these invaders and they know specifically how those invaders attack, what type of weapons those invaders are going to use, and they use specific weapons, which we call antibodies, and cytotoxic T cells. They use those to actually attack the invader. And so they are so good at what they do that usually they're able to attack those invaders quickly and robustly, and we don't even feel it. So those second line defense, that second layer is really, really good. So the first time an invader comes in, our body doesn't really know it, so it just uses that first line of defense. We might feel a little sick, but during that first line sends the message to that second line of defense. So that second line of defense can basically be ready the second time we come in contact with that invader. And then the second time we don't feel as sick, or sometimes we don't even feel sick at all. So this is where vaccines come in. Vaccines kind of skip that first step. Vaccines are basically us giving that second layer of defense the blueprint to fight off the invader without us having to get sick first. And so we give this second line of defense the blueprint to fight these invaders, and they are able to fight them quickly and robustly. And oftentimes we don't even know that the invader ever came in, because we don't feel it, because we don't feel that fight, because the fight is so good, it's so strategic, it's so precise that we don't feel those symptoms normally. Sometimes you might get some mild symptoms. So that sounds well and good. And honestly, it's a great system and it works very well. But you got to understand, we are surviving and so are the invaders. So at the same time that our bodies have these defenses, the invaders are also like, hey, I need a host. I need to get in and I need to find a place to make more of myself so I can get back out and spread far and wide. And so this is, so they are also kind of reacting to our bodies fighting against them. And so the way they do this is through mutating. And through mutating, they basically just try all these different things. They're like, oh, well, this weapon didn't work, so let's mutate and try this weapon. Or let's try this change or that change. And let's see what little tweak we can do to be better, to outsmart that host's defense system. And that's cool and everything. Most of the time, they fail. So they make all these mutations, and a lot of those mutations crash, burn, not helpful at all. Actually, we made things worse. We actually got weaker. But every now and then, they make a mutation that is good. And it's so good that they have figured out a way to get past our second line of defense. These are what we call our variants or variants of concern. they have mutated into something stronger. And so that's what we're dealing with right now when we're talking about the Delta variant. The Delta variant is a variant of the virus, a mutated form of the original SARS-CoV-2 that is actually stronger than the original strain. And so while our vaccines are actually pretty good at neutralizing this threat, the variant is it's not as good at neutralizing the variant as it was at neutralizing the original strain. The good news, however, is though even though it's not as good, it is not completely getting past our defenses. And so if you are vaccinated, you might still feel your body fighting. You still feel it. You still get sick, but you ultimately win the fight. And so you don't get hospitalized or you don't actually die from the virus because you still win. But there is a bit of bad news when it comes to this. So even though we might be able to fight off severe disease, hospitalization, and death if we're vaccinated, the truth is there's data coming out that shows that even the vaccinated are able to spread the virus just as easily as the unvaccinated. So, from a public health standpoint, while my personal health might be protected, public health is still very much at risk. And so that is something that we must consider, especially since Delta is super rude and unlike the original strain, which pretty much left most of our babies alone, this particular variant is indiscriminate on who it wants to infect, and it is going after our children, many of whom do not have the ability to get vaccinated because they are not eligible yet. And so what am I saying? In a nutshell, what I'm saying is that by allowing this variant to go unchecked and to spread throughout our community, we risk our children, our young ones, many of whom have no agency over a lot of the decisions. A lot of decisions are made for them. Whether they wear a mask is really made, the decision made by the person who has to buy them masks. Whether they get vaccinated, if they are eligible, is often up to the person who is their caregiver, their parent. And so right now we're dealing with a situation where our children are very vulnerable. And so this is where we all need to care. We got to care. We got to understand that the vaccine is actually a very good weapon still, especially when it comes to our healthcare system and making sure that our healthcare workers are not overburdened by a large number of COVID cases that are severe enough that they require hospitalization. But that's just one layer of protection. Just like the inside of our bodies have multiple layers of protection, we need to have that on the outside as well. So we need to be protecting ourselves by continuing to wear masks and continuing to distance, limiting being in large crowds around a large number of people that you don't know, especially if there's no masking happening. And so we are back almost to square one. The good thing is we have a tool that will at least stop people from getting so sick that they are getting hospitalized, ending up on ventilators, and possibly dying. The bad part is this variant is very strong. And the worst part is the longer this virus lingers, the longer we give it the opportunity to regroup and mutate and make more variants. And while this particular variant is still a little vulnerable to the vaccine and that it stops you from getting deathly ill, What we don't want is for it to be a true escape variant that is not able to be stopped by our immune system. And our immune system basically has to start from scratch all over again, putting us back to where we were at the beginning of the pandemic. We don't want that. No one likes wearing masks. It's not a thing. But no one wants shutdowns, mass deaths, mass, shortages, having to shut down elective procedures so that hospitals can just focus on COVID. All those things that we had to deal with, people getting laid off, all those things. Those are things that are definitely inevitable if we do not take this virus seriously, if we do not care. Yes, care about your personal health. Get vaccinated, but care about your community. Care about the kids. Get vaccinated. Wear masks. It's all important. Multiple layers. That's the only way we're going to fight this virus. So I hope this was helpful. I tried to put basically an entire semester of immunology to a very short segment. So this is your immunology in 10 minutes. And I hope that some of this information resonated with you. I hope that you feel comfortable sharing some of this information with others who may not necessarily understand how this stuff works. Bye. Please join myself as well as State Representative Dr. Rebecca Mitchell and microbiologist Dr. Amber Schmidtke for a joint virtual town hall on the COVID-19 Delta variant and the return to schools this Tuesday, August 3rd on Facebook Live.